Lee Grant is one of the all-time greatest actresses and directors in Hollywood. She's still alive today as of February 2022. In the height of her popularity, she was dubbed the anti-Doris Day because of her sultry delivery and sexy glamour. Her uniqueness skyrocketed her career, earning her an Oscar nomination for 1951's Detective Story. Her career was temporarily put on hold because she was blacklisted during the McCarthy era. She was taken off the blacklist in 1963 and slowly rebuilt her career. First on the soap opera Peyton Place, which also starred her future Valley of the Dolls co-star Barbara Parkins. My introduction to Lee Grant was from my obsession of Valley of the Dolls. Valley of the Dolls is the godmother of enjoyable bad movies. It's based on a best-selling novel by Jackie Suzanne. It was quite expensive. It had a really controversial and highly publicized production. It was supposed to be an Oscar-winning drama, a prestige picture. But upon its release in 1967, audiences and critics were laughing at its cliches of show business melodrama. Despite its badness, it still made a ton of money upon its initial release, and again when it was re-released after the murder of Sharon Tate by the Manson family cult members. Grant's performance in Valley of the Dolls as the sister and manager of the doomed Tony Polar had a really refined nuance. She was saying the most ridiculous lines with an absolute conviction. You believe every word Lee Grant utters, especially when she's about to heat up the lasagna. I'm gonna heat up the lasagna. I always assumed she was a gay icon because of her association with Valley of the Dolls, which if you don't know, the novel, film, and sequel are a huge appendage in LGBT cult media. But her cult icon status runs much deeper than just V of the D. She also was a renowned scream queen. One of the most re-evaluated genres in horror today has to be the hag horror films, also known as psychobiddy and hagsploitation. Ouch. These were a slew of films in the 20th century that revolved around aging, old Hollywood actresses. The glamour girls of the 30s, 40s, and 50s began a new image during the 60s, reinventing themselves to younger horror movie audiences. The OG of the hag horror is probably Sunset Boulevard with Gloria Swanson, the original Hollywood horror. Sunset Boulevard and Psycho led to the most famous hag horror of all time, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, starring the unforgettable Bette Davis and Joan Crawford. This led to other hag horror classics such as Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte, Straitjacket, Dead Ringer, and the sickest one of all, in my opinion, Lady in a Cage with Olivia de Havilland. Eventually, the genre mutated into less hag and more glamorous fag-hag horror. You see it in Liz Taylor's performance in Night Games, or in The Insane Driver's Seat, Debbie Reynolds in What's the Matter with Helen, and finally, the most glamorous scream queen / fruit fly horror icon has to be Lee Grant. I think her finest horror-related performance is in Damien, Omen 2, which is, in this cinemaniac's opinion, it far surpasses the original in shocks and style, and Lee Grant's performance is integral to this superiority. She wasn't much of a character actress, Lee Grant, but she was the character. I really liked Damien's arc in this one. He's ignorant to the fact that he's the Antichrist. There's almost a slight Carrie vibe because of how his supernatural powers activate as a result of being bullied. But once he realizes what he is, he's not happy. He's actually kind of ashamed of how different he is from the other boys. And I couldn't help but think how allegorical this is to the kind of the shame or guilt one might feel over their sexual orientation. So there is a weird scene where Damien, he sort of comes out to his cousin as the Antichrist. He's like, this is what I am. Like, it's very funny to me. But the cousin doesn't take it so well upon learning that that Damien's the Antichrist. But Mama Lee loves her little Damien no matter what. I recently read a fantastic interview with Lee Grant in Diabolique magazine, where Grant was amused and surprised that films like Omen 2, The Spell, and Visiting Hours have a cult audience among gay men. The Spell has a great mother-daughter battle of psychic powers. It's like Carrie if she had been more bourgeois, but it's through the perspective of the mother of the girl with telekinesis, whereas Carrie is entirely almost through the eyes of the girl with the telekinesis and her peers. The Spell is very trashy TV fun, And of course, Lee Grant elevates it with her great performance. She was an actress that had that ability to take kind of subpar material and make it a little bit better and still engaging. There's something about Lee Grant when she's on the screen, you cannot take your eyes off of her. She's, the word captivating comes to mind. Very interesting. Face, bone structure, her eyes, oof, yet they're telling you everything at the same time. Visiting Hours is a Canadian response to slashers like Friday the 13th and Halloween, but it could easily be a slasher movie for people who hate slashers. It's not overtly gory, it's more suspense oriented than like gory special effects reel. I love that Grant is like kind of the anti-final girl, if you know what I mean. She's not a nubile co-ed, she's not a babysitter, she's this middle-aged yet glamorous, outspoken journalist who is attacked by a psycho killer because of her controversial opinions and stories on women's rights. So I kind of liked this. The whole message of Visiting Hours was very pro-woman for a slasher movie, if that makes any sense, because most of them don't cater to women in that sort of regard. My favorite moment in Visiting Hours is when Lee Grant is defending herself against the killer and she uses her high heel to like smash his hand. I thought that was so great, kind of a great drag queen move in a way. So she was an actress who did many high and lowbrow films. One could wonder why. Why would a great actress do movies that were seen kind of subpar beneath her? Well, her autobiography was titled I Said Yes to Everything, which I guess was her mantra for working in acting. She did horror films and genre films to finance her directing career. Throughout the 80s, Grant directed some of the most disturbing and powerful documentaries I have ever seen. They're unflinching, gritty, savagely real. There's one titled When Women Kill, and it's a harrowing look at women incarcerated, and even has a segment devoted to Leslie Van Houten, former Manson girl, who was not involved with Sharon Tate's murder, but the LaBianca murders, but still sort of interesting that Lee Grant would go there since she was a near and dear friend to Sharon Tate. Grant's documentary, What Sex Am I?, is one of the most sympathetic insights into gay, transgender, and transvestite lifestyle that predates Paris's Burning by a few years and has many of the same kind of vibes as that movie. Grant won an Oscar for Best Documentary for her film Down and Out in America, which is, again, extremely harrowing. It's a look at homelessness in America, and it feels even more relevant today than maybe that it did in the 1980s. I love Lee Grant. She has done so many wonderful things in film, and art, and documentaries. She even has a small and memorable moment in David Lynch's Mulholland Drive. See Mulholland Drive. See Valley of the Dolls if you haven't. See Omen 2. That one is so good. I don't even watch the first Omen. I like Omen 2 so much more. There's something more believable about a teenager being an evil demon antichrist than a child, so I just kind of like that a little bit more. My name is Jacob Lomax, and I thank you for watching Strangest Films, and if you've made it to the end of this video, leave me a black heart emoji just to show me that you loved it. Let me know what your favorite Lee Grant performance is, or if you've seen her documentaries, let me know what her favorite documentary is. She's a great lady, and if Lee Grant, I know you're not listening, but if you are, I love you.